Hi everyone, welcome back to the Casual Watch Review channel. As with a lot of people, when I was a kid growing up in the 80s, I was obsessed with Casio. It seemed like every new watch that they came out with had cooler look to it, more advanced features. And as I went into my teenage years, I became obsessed with their PRG601YB-3 watches. And as an early teen, my grail watch at that time was the newly released ATC1100. It looked so cool. I imagined myself owning this watch and then finding myself in situations where I needed to use the triple sensors, maybe being called on to use the compass to help stranded friends navigate out of the dark woods, or being called on to use the altimeter to help guide a pilot with a plane full of passengers to safety when their instruments failed, saving the day and a plane full of grateful passengers, the Casio watch being the hero of the day. In reality, as I got older, I ended up owning that watch, other PRG601YB versions, and of course the G-Shock Rangeman, which you've seen me review on the channel, which has these sensors on as well. I thankfully never found myself in one of those perilous situations where I needed to rely on those sensors. Having those sensors on a watch became a novelty for the type of hobbies and activities I did, so I moved on to other Casio watches and other watch brands. But earlier this week, the team over at Casio USA reached out and asked if I wanted to review one of the new PRG601YB watches. And you know what? Yeah, I'm interested in seeing what the new PRG601YB watches look like. They haven't been on my personal radar for a long time. But needless to say, I won't be taking this on long hikes, climbing a mountain, or surviving in the woods for 7 days to test out all the watch's features. So bear that in mind for the review. However, if you're watching this and you do run a YouTube channel that's outdoor focused or EDC focused and you want to do a collab on this watch, let me know in the comment section down below. Apple and its new Watch Ultra has really been attacking the outdoor market, along with Garmin, Fitbit, and a host of other watches. For years, this crown was held by Casio with the PRG601YB range. Does this watch still have a place in the outdoor adventure watch market? Well, let's dive into the review of this watch. We'll go over all its features and then you let me know in the comment section down below. This is the PRG601YB PRG601YB, and it doesn't just tell the time. It's equipped with essential tools for navigating the natural world: a digital compass, barometer, altimeter, and thermometer, collectively known as the triple sensor. I did have to check the specs because nowhere on the watch does it say this has solar. The battery is big enough to run without a solar charge for 7 months with normal use without exposure to light. If you go on camping holidays and you only use this watch for when you're going on hikes and things like that and you're not wearing it for a daily wear, you could easily store it in a drawer. It will go into power save mode until you need to use it again, and then all you do is press a button and the watch springs back to life, and you can store it for 25 months in that state. What drew me to want to review this PRG601YB, it does incorporate a minimalist watch aesthetic with the ruggedness to handle day-to-day wear, whether navigating urban landscapes like I do or venturing deep into the wild. I like this look. It's less of a watch that looks straight from a sci-fi film and more of a watch that you can wear every day. There's no hiding it, this watch definitely has a wrist presence. We have a lug-to-lug of 53.7 with a case dimensions of 51.2 with the crown and a 14.8mm thickness, and a very weird lug width that I've measured at 22.8. I presume you could add a 22mm replacement strap to this. Here is a quick shot of the watch on a 22mm NATO, and there is a slight gap but entirely livable with. Included is a cloth band made from recycled plastic bottles. It is comfortable. One thing, however, I was worried about was if the metal keeper would slip up and down and make the tail of the strap overhang, but so far so good, although I do think there is a risk of this as the strap supples up over time because there isn't resistance for the keeper to move up and down the strap. It's metal against a weave that is made from plastic. The watch is incredibly light. It's only coming in at 60 grams, so even though it has that larger wrist presence, it's very comfortable, very wearable. You actually hardly notice it on the wrist after a while. The weight reduction is partly due to the case being made from bio-based resin. We've talked about this before on the channel, being made from materials extracted from castor seed and corn. This is supposed to be more environmentally sustainable. It doesn't mean that the watch is going to biodegrade. It just means that the process is using crops that can regrow. Nearly all the Casio and G-Shocks I've reviewed reviewed this year have been made from a similar material, but the case of this watch isn't soft like the outer case of a G-Shock. This is very hard. It feels almost like a forged carbon case. The box is also fully recyclable, with the watch now coming in the familiar cloth bag as opposed to the plastic bag and foam inserts we saw in previous years. Casio are certainly going in this direction, so it's something to get used to. And their limited edition models like the recent NASA G-Shock I reviewed, those are still coming in those beautiful presentation tins. Unlike the older siblings of this watch, the previous models, what's unique about this one is the case back is also made from that bio-based material, not the typical stainless steel case back that we see on Casio watches. All of this added together makes for an extremely light watch, so once you get comfortable with the size of the case, it's a very comfortable watch to wear. The dial of this watch is highly legible with oversized index numbers, enhancing legibility in most conditions. Even though there is a lot going on the dial, only the 10 has been slightly amputated. These numbers are also loomed and are raised above the dial and appear to be attached to the rehor. This gives a lot of additional dimension to the dial without making the dial look cluttered. While we're talking about the loom, the watch also has a very impressive LED light. This completely illuminates the dial in the dark. In fact, there are two LED lights, one for the dial and one for the LCD. This is a great feature, and the button is subtly built into the lugs and doesn't have light written on it. This ProTrek is a lot more refined than those models I fell in love with as a kid. I would say this brings it more visually closer to a high-end Garmin watch than the early iterations of the ProTrek watch, which did look chunky and very plasticky. The LCD is also a great feature. It's much clearer than the recent 2100 G-Shock that we reviewed. This is a display for all of the information components of the watch, including the triple sensor. Although the compass uses the second hand to show the direction of north, I don't know why I find this so cool, but it really is cool when you see it in person. The LCD also displays the recall, stopwatch, alarm, timer, world time, and so on. The actual time is set via a screw down crown. This is nicely sized and works very well. It's not like a crown on a mechanical watch where you feel like you're directly driving the hands. This is more of a switch that then a motor separately moves the hands and advances the LCD. One of the things I have come very accustomed to on the newer G-Shocks is Bluetooth, and it's a shame that this watch doesn't have Bluetooth on it. It would be nice to get an interesting view of some of the readings from the triple sensors, being able to set the time, the multiple different time zones and stuff. I'm not sure how difficult it would be to add Bluetooth to this model. I think it would really enhance it quite a bit. The hands are also highly legible, and I'm personally a massive fan of the orange second hand. This complements the mode selector and its text and the yellow accent on the crown. The dial is beautifully framed by the only metal component of the case other than the screws. We have a beautiful ion-plated stainless steel bezel. The bezel is fixed, and it appears its only use is to show the 29 different time zones for the world time. I wonder if something more useful could have been on there, because it really is stunning with the deep engraving and a lovely brushed finish to it. I'm glad they didn't do this bezel in that bio-based resin, because the metal really lifts the whole look of the watch. The watch has 100-meter water resistance, so easily workable for the activities that this watch is made for. The buttons on the case are a great size, easy to grip and easy to press. Unfortunately, again, we have a mineral crystal on this watch. I've gone on about this enough times on the channel. The main Casio range, even in their $99 watches, they use sapphire crystal, but it seems like the G-Shock and some of the ProTrek range are still using mineral crystal. I just think it would elevate the whole line of watches if they started to use sapphire, but of course, mineral crystal is hard wearing. I'm going to steer clear of a technical review of the watch's sensors or a tutorial about how they work, because honestly, I don't know enough about that. I would just be reading the spec sheet out and then hoping that I was right. But if you go to the Casio website, there is a full breakdown of all of the information for the sensors, and you can also download the manual for this watch as well if you wanted to get a sneak peek of how to calibrate those. So does this watch live up to the ProTreks that I lusted after as a teenager? I think it does. It has the features of an outdoor adventure watch, but it looks like a well-designed normal watch, and I think they've done a great job of crossing this line over from more of an outdoorsy type watch to a watch that you can wear day to day. Big thanks to Casio for sending this watch in for review, but I am very interested to know what you think. Would you go for a watch like this or choose the new Apple Watch Ultra? I've seen so many of these Apple Watch Ultras in the wild, and I wonder if people want them for the outdoor capabilities or just because it looks like a chunkier, less refined Apple Watch. One thing is for sure, this watch is going to last you for many years as long as you keep it having a solar charge every 7 months, whereas the Apple Watch does need to be charged at least once every 48 hours. And it is slightly cheaper than that Apple Watch Ultra, coming in at $320 RRP. It's not that departure from the standard Apple Watch, granted, but it is certainly cheaper than that Apple Watch Ultra. Let me know what you think in the comments section. I'll see you next time on Casual Watch Reviews.